Hello, it's Miss Walker. I'm really excited because I'm going to be talking you through something that's brand new, that's going to make reading, hopefully, I'm going to be positive, definitely a lot easier in lockdown and beyond. And it's called MyON. So if you are a student in years 7 to 11, stay with me. I'm going to be talking you through all of those questions. So what is it? How does it work? How do I get on it? And this is your first point of call for accessing MyON and getting it up and running. So an overview of what MyON is. It is a digital library that's going to give you access to over 6,000 books. But I've put that quite simply because it does more than that. What it does and what's fantastic about MyON is it tailors the reading experience to you. So you can log in and you can put what you're interested in, what topics perhaps you're covering, and it's going to allow you to choose books within that kind of interest range. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in the next couple of slides as we go through. One of the biggest hurdles with logging in is actually knowing how to log in. So MyON's quite simple in that you can type it into any internet search, so like Google, Safari, and it will come up with this page. So this is what you should be seeing. Now zooming in a little bit, you've got the login box there. And the first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to pop the school into the school name. So that's Hayesfield Girls School. Now last week, so that's round the 18th of January, you received an email with your username and your password for logging into MyON. So you should have that email, and that's what you're now using to get onto the site. So you just put that into the two boxes and then it takes you through. Now, on first logging in, MyON's going to come up with this page, and this is you deciding on your interests. So if you scroll down this list, what you will see is it gets you to choose whether you're interested in a certain genre, whether you're interested in a certain topic, a certain theme, whether it's fiction or non-fictional text that interests you. Whichever it is, you get to choose and pop it in. But it's not a case of just going, well, I'm interested in that, but I'm not interested in that. What it actually allows you to do as well is it allows you to rate how interested you are. So you get a better choice basically when it recommends books. Now, it's not the case that when you first enter your interests, you then can't change those, and those are your concrete interests that are there the whole time. You can, and if you look at this, once you've entered your interests in, it then draws up your recommended reading. And with your recommended reading, you'll get around 6 texts that you can choose from that are immediately suggested. That doesn't mean you have to pick those 6 texts. It may be that actually none of them are really hitting what you need them to give you information on or what you're interested in which case you can refresh that or you can edit your interest. So you've always got that opportunity with MyON to keep on updating, to keep on changing and make sure that it is fitting and suiting you the whole time. Those of you who are really eagle-eyed will have spotted that it also says books in your ZPD. So years 7 and 8, this is where you switch on, because you will know that zone of proximal development, or ZPD, is what comes from your STAR, the STAR reading test that generates your reading age. So that also gives you an indication of not only is the book something that you're interested in, but also something that's providing the suitable amount of challenge. Now, again, like with Accelerated Reader and like with knowing the books and texts there, if the book is towards the lower end of your ZPD, you're probably going to read it quicker. It's probably going to be easier for you. Whereas if it's towards the higher end of your ZPD, it's going to have quite a lot of new vocabulary. It's going to be stretching you in terms of structures as well, and it's going to be pushing that reading age up. So just have that in the back of your mind. But that doesn't mean, obviously, that you can't pick a text because it's not in your range. If it's something that actually you're interested in and it's something you're enjoying, always read it, but just bear in mind where that might fit in with your choices. So this student in particular went on and they logged in and they flagged that actually they were interested in environmental issues and climate change. So a text that MyON has suggested is this, it's Trash Vortex, How Plastic Pollution is Choking the World's Oceans. Now they've opened it up and this is what they see from the book. So you can see they've got an overview. So they can have a quick skim read of that, and if it still sounds like something they are interested in, they might like to then read it. They've also got an average rating, so that's from previous students on MyON from different schools who've gone on and they've rated it depending on how good it is, obviously, and they've got the 5 stars there. So that's quite a good indication that it's quite an engaging text to read. They can check that it is in a suitable range for them, that it's not going to be too childish in some ways, because actually it says recommended year levels 6 to 8. But the other way that they can check, and again, those of you who are really scrutinising this will spot, it does actually say take AR quiz in that orange button there. And that's because MyON links with Accelerated Reader. And yes, you don't have to log in. It removes that kind of faddly bit where you have to log into an Accelerated Reader and take a quiz, because you can take a quiz directly from MyON and that will go straight through, so your Accelerated Reading teacher can see that. So it gives you an overview. You can also star it as a favourite, and then if it's something that you're interested in reading, you can read it directly. That's the green button, or you can flag it later with the heart, so that actually if you want to come back to it, it's there and waiting for you. This is where it gets exciting, because this is where MyON puts you firmly in charge of tailoring that reading experience to you. So the student opened the book and they decided that actually there were some key phrases in there that they wanted to highlight, they wanted to draw upon, and so you can see they've actually highlighted a phrase there in the text. If you look closely at the tools on the right hand side, you'll see that there's a highlighting tool, a tool for flagging bits, you've got a dictionary, you've got a journal, and you've got other pages. You've got a whole range of things that you can use those to annotate the text. And that makes it a lot easier to kind of access that text and pick out the key bits and get from it what you want to get from it. Now, another crucial tool for those of you, and sometimes I know people open a book and they struggle because actually the words seem to jump around on the page, or it's quite difficult reading with black and white, or you have a word written down and it can be quite hard knowing, you know what the word means, but you're not quite sure how to pronounce it. Now, actually, you can, if you look closely, you can see there's a little play button there. If you click on that, what it's going to do is it's going to play the book and you can read along. So if you do find that actually you're someone who struggles in terms of any of the things I've just mentioned, that's where MyON really comes into its own, because it's there to support. Now, on the other end of that, we have the dictionary, and this is my favourite tool, because one of the key things, girls, if you're in year 11, you will know how important language and vocabulary is, and extending that vocabulary in your own writing is. And sometimes students say, well, actually, miss, I don't know where to get words, and I don't know when I'm reading, what do you do? And it can be a bit of a faff to read a book and then have to look up a word. Now, what MyON does, it gives you a dictionary. So straight away, if there's a word in there that you think, actually, I'm not sure what that word means, pop it into the dictionary. It will give you the definition, it will give you the word type, it will give you all the information you need, and it makes that, again, it makes it so accessible, it makes it so easy. And that's what's wonderful about it, is that accessibility. So you can absolutely use that for you and make sure you're developing your vocabulary in that way. And again, here, in terms on the line of developing vocabulary, lots of you say, I've read this text, I'm not sure what to read to push and extend and challenge myself. Now, Hayesfield has access to the classics bundle, so that features everything from the fairy tales of the Brothers Grimm. We've got Just So stories. There is the Sherlock Holmes and the Hound of the Baskervilles. You've got the classics, as they say, the real sort of the brilliant books. And they have got a very broad vocabulary range. They are interesting. Sometimes they do take a bit of perseverance, but with a classic, it is always worth it. GCSE students, amazingly, we have access now to the modern text. So Jekyll and Hyde, Frankenstein, A Christmas Carol, all of those are at your fingertips with MyON. And going back to what we've just looked at, you can highlight those, you can annotate them, you can make them your own in all of that kind of, in any sense, okay? So you can really use those. If you're looking to keep your lovely hard copy of the book nice and neat, you can access that on MyON, scribble all over it on MyON. It will be there, you can come back to it, and you've got a neat copy as well for just your own sort of going through. So make sure you have a look at those classics. They are there. We've got the works of the main man himself, so William Shakespeare. They are there as well. Have a look through. So it's not just fiction, as you can see, it's not just fictional prose writing. We've got plays. I think there's also a bit of poetry on there as well. So a whole range, and that again is amazing. And this is the thing with the range of texts you can access on MyON. So the advantages of MyON in a nutshell, and there are many, and these are the ones that I've discovered. So these are the main ones that I'm going to highlight to you. So the first one is reading material absolutely at your fingertips. With MyON, we've overcome one of the biggest barriers in lockdown, which is perhaps that you can't just walk into a library, have a chat with a librarian, find a book. That's become a lot harder. And I'm going to emphasize this, it's not just for lockdown. Do remember that you can come back, they are there, they are on the internet for you to read, and you can dip in and out and flag them as and when needed. The reading material is also tailored to you. By entering in your interests, you're quickly able to kind of select books that you're going to be engaged in reading and that you're going to finish. My favourite thing, as I said, and I keep on saying, is that dictionary. It's introducing you to new vocabulary, new words. That helps with communication. There is a quote, I think, from Hemingway where he says it's not all about big words in terms of communicating big emotions. I think it's Hemingway that says that. No, it's not, but actually the more words you have in kind of your armory to communicate, the better it is for you. And that's not just in your English language exam, it's in any kind of subject. It's key to communication. We use words to communicate, so use that dictionary. The support that's accessible to you as well, so the audio, the ability to go back, to highlight things, to make things larger, to change things, to adapt it. That is the personalisation that you can have with MyON. And again, make sure you're using that, make sure you're getting the most out of that. So if you're in the older years now, you don't need to stay tuned for the rest. This is just for year 7 and 8. As I have mentioned, MyON is by the same people that do Accelerated Reader, and so therefore they do actually link and talk to one another. The key is in getting them to do that. So when you log into MyON, you will have this, and this flags as it's really big, you can't miss it. And it says power up your reading, MyON plus star reading. And if you look closely, you can see that connect button there in orange. So what you're going to do, probably you can guess it, is you're going to click connect. Once you have done that, it brings up this. Now this is where you really need to switch on, because when it asks you for your login, that is not your MyON login. They are slightly different. This is your Accelerated Reading login. This was written in your planner at the beginning of the year, or your Accelerated Reading teacher has given it to you if you had a bit of trouble with that. So you have and should have it in your planner. If you do not have it in your planner, or you try and it doesn't work, pop an email to your Accelerated Reading teacher. You can even ask your tutor, your English teacher as another point of call to get that up and running. But just to be clear, when it flags up user login, you're putting your Accelerated Reading login in, not your MyON login now. So this is connecting the two. Once you have done that, it then asks you an authorization request. This is nothing scary. All it's doing is making sure that this is absolutely what you want to do, and it is. So you're going to click allow. Once you've gone through that, it does take a little bit of time, and I've done this with I think about 5 students now, and each time it's taken about 10 minutes for it to appear. Now the way that we're going to check whether it's worked is you can go back to it. It directs you, once you put your user and login for Accelerated Reader in, you know it's worked because it puts you back onto the MyON page where you were. Now at the top of your MyON page, next to your interests, you have a little progress box. Now that obviously lets you know your progress with reading, and that's when it's linked to Accelerated Reader. If you click on the progress box, what you should be able to see, you have your ZPD range there. And as I have said, it doesn't have to happen straight away. It takes a little bit of time, so be patient with it, give it that time. You can refresh the screen, you can log out and log back in. I had to do that a couple of times with one of the students for it to really start talking. But when it does, what you should see, and how you know it's working, is you can see your ZPD range. Doesn't tell you your reading age, but you've already written that in your planner from your Accelerated Reading lessons. But it does tell you the range of books and your ZPD, so that's there for you to access. Right, so I've reached the end of my presentation now, and thank you so much for watching. However, I've just touched on the tip of the iceberg with MyON. It's something that's brand new and it's in its infancy and we're getting it up and running. But I am also a teacher, so my experience of it is going to be very different to what you as students see. So what I would really be grateful for is some MyON trailblazers. If you've already had the chance to log in or you're interested in logging in and having a little look, please do let me know if you notice or you spot anything that you think, actually, Miss Walker didn't talk about this, this is really useful. Because the more information I get, the more information I can share with students and make sure that everyone is getting the most out of this site.